This is Joe, and Joe is a newly graduated graphic designer. He's eager to get out into the workforce, maybe even working freelance or landing a perfect job with a large company. But Joe is going to be faced with the number one question most new designers will ask. How much do I charge? How do you estimate your prices as a professional graphic designer? It turns out that this answer is a little bit more complex than just pulling a number out of thin air. But I'm going to break it down into a step-by-step process that will allow you to back up your reasoning for how much you charge. The first thing we need to consider is to start with your yearly salary. How much do you want to make, or how much do you need to make every year? Most graphic designers, when you talk to other professionals, will give you a large range of yearly salaries, $20,000, $60,000, $100,000. All of these are going to be vastly different depending on where you live, what kind of work you do, how much experience you have. If you're a new designer, this can be very confusing. So let's take a step back and look at you individually. The first thing you need to do is to estimate your monthly expenses. These are things that you usually pay for on a regular basis, usually every month. So things like your rent or your mortgage. How much do you pay for food and clothing? How much are you paying for your phone? What about insurance? Or if you want to start your business, do you have any expenses? Even personal things like going out on a date or just buying entertainment. All of these are things that add up monthly. Also notice that some of these things may not be paid exactly every month. For instance, I pay my insurance every 4 months. But give a good estimate of what you would normally pay if you had to pay every month. Here we see that Joe has listed out all of his expenses, and he's come to a grand total of $1,450 every month. Next, we need to multiply by 12 months to get our base salary for the year. So if Joe spends $1,450 over 12 months, he will be spending over $17,400. This number right here, your base salary, is what you need to make just to survive, just to pay for your insurance, your gas, your car, anything that you need on a monthly basis. But there's another catch that most people forget to compensate for. If you're going to be making money as a professional, the government's going to want a cut of it. So we need to factor in taxes. Depending on where you live, this number may be slightly different. But in general, if you add 30% to your base salary, that'll be enough to cover the cost of local, state, and federal taxes. To factor in 30%, simply multiply your base salary times 1.3. In this case, for Joe, that'll give him a grand total, adjusted for taxes, for $22,620. This now is exactly what Joe needs to make every year in order to cover his taxes and everything that he needs to pay for on a monthly basis. Now that we have our base salary, we can start to dream big and understand how much do we want to make in profit. Profit is for things that will help you and your business grow. It'll pay for education, it'll get you a new computer, if you want to take a long vacation or build a bigger house, even if you want to save for retirement or for your children's savings. All of this needs to come from your profit that you gain. Anything that's larger than your base salary is going to be profit. So any number, if you go to a job interview and they ask what salary do you want to be offered or what salary they do offer, make sure that it's larger than your base salary so that you can have some extra as income. Joe's deciding to go big and to double his base salary. $40,000 sounds like a great round number for him. But how does this translate into daily projects? If he's going to be making $40,000 a year, what does he need to charge for a client? This leads us to the second part. How do you calculate your hourly rate? How much would you charge for every project? The next thing we need to do is to estimate the amount of time that you want to work, especially if you're a freelancer. There's two things to keep in mind. How many hours do you want to work, and how many weeks throughout the year do you want to work? You are in control of this, depending if you're working as a freelancer or even if you're working as a full-time employee in-house. So if Joe was to work from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the evening, that's a typical 7-hour day. And if he worked Monday through Friday, that's a typical 5-day work week. This means that Joe will be working 35 hours for the entire week, 7 hours over 5 days. If Joe wanted to take a couple of weeks off and only work 50 weeks out of the year, then we multiply the number of weeks, 50, times the number of hours per week, 35, and we find that Joe is working 1,750 hours per year. This is a typical work week for most people. But keep in mind, you can change the variables. If you wanted to work shorter days or longer days, maybe you only want to work Monday through Thursday and take a long weekend off. Maybe you want to have more vacation time or no vacation time at all. Every time you would change the variable, this will also affect your overall income. Finally, the last thing we need to do is to divide our yearly salary by the total number of hours that we work. So if Joe wants to make $40,000 a year and he wants to work 1,750 hours throughout the year, that divided will give us a grand total of $22.86 per hour. This is how much Joe needs to charge his clients as he works on his projects. Armed with this knowledge, Joe is pretty happy. He can do a lot of things with this particular information. For instance, he can make estimates for how much it would cost different projects. If a logo takes 12 hours to produce, well then multiply 12 hours times his rate of $22 and he'll get about $275. He knows how much he can charge for that logo. Additionally, Joe can figure out other things that makes him much more appealing as a designer. He can charge overtime. If somebody needs something rushed or something done very quickly, he can charge 50 to 100% more. He can give cost proposals for larger projects. He can even give discounts if he's working for a nonprofit or for a friend. But above all, he can be more competitive with the other graphic designers that are in his area. He can determine if he needs to raise his rates or lower his rates based on his needs and what his clients may need as well.